What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Universal Mastery. Welcome back to my public YouTube channel. What is the topic of our today's video? I'm going to be speaking about how your spiritual teacher or the spiritual guru that you're learning from potentially could be further traumatizing you. How is your teacher making you afraid on a deep level? What are some of the things that you want to be aware of when it comes to spiritual teachers? Okay? This is really what I'm going to be uncovering and I'm going to be going into depth with in this today's video because I have a lot of experience with this and I see it all the time, and it's just so interesting to observe because there's so many different people that have no idea what's actually taking place, and they have no idea that they're getting further traumatized by their teachers. So once again, if this is a subject that you want to go very deep into and you want to better know when you're connecting with a spiritual teacher and what's actually happening under the deeper layers there, emotionally speaking, energetically speaking, then this is definitely a video that is meant for you. So you simply have one thing to do, and that is to stay tuned. All right, so let me go into it. So we're talking about spiritual teachers and how many of them are in a position where what they're actually doing to their followers or their students is they're programming them with even more fear. And I'm going to be going into why this is actually taking place so that you can understand it. Okay, so how many of you actually have spiritual teachers in your life, people that in a way you look up to that are in the spiritual field, and these teachers spend a lot of time, one, talking about conspiracies, and two, they spend a lot of time talking about a specific end date. And when I say the end date, what I'm referring to is this is when blank. This is when the economy is going to crash. This is when the elites are going to get exposed. This is when you need to be ready and have all your food stored up because the world's going to shut down. This is what I mean by the end date. And I want you to take a nice, realistic observation, an honest view of the people that you're currently learning from right now, the people that maybe have a big influence over your mind, and ask yourself, do I have any teachers that spend a lot of time and energy talking about conspiracy theories that usually revolve around there are bad people out there and we need to be aware of it? Or do I have a spiritual teacher that's spending a lot of time and energy saying, I've been talking about the end times for a long time, or I've been talking about the economy that's going to crash, for a long time, and it's about to happen. It's about to happen. Just wait. In the next 5 months, something's going to happen in society, and we're all going to have to really make sure that we have our food, and we're going to have to, prepare ourselves. We're going to have to protect ourselves. Okay? So just take a second and ask yourself, do you have any spiritual teachers in your life that spend a lot of their time and energy talking about these types of things? All right. Now, with that being said, I'm not here, and I'm not going to say that these things may not be true. So when it comes to certain conspiracy theories, I'm not saying that those things may not be true. I agree. I think there's a lot of realistic conspiracy theories. I'm actually a person who oftentimes really gravitates towards that as well. When someone starts talking about a conspiracy, I oftentimes get very interested in the conspiracy. But also at the same time, as I grow more, as I become more integrated, I'm starting to sort of lose interest in them because I'm understanding the deeper layers, specifically the emotional layers that are behind conspiracies. Now, the same thing with the end dates, okay? This is the end date. This is like, oh, in the next 4 months, in the next 5 months, something's going to happen mass collectively, and everyone's going to have to shut down. So it's kind of like a similar essence as the coronavirus and the pandemic, when everyone had to kind of lock themselves down for a bit. You know, that was a date that no one expected, though. That's the funny part. Like, no one predicted it. No one necessarily expected that to take place in the way that it did. But this is what people kind of hold on to deep inside of their unconscious for being these time frames where there's an end date. Okay, so there's people that really spend a lot of time making sure they're preparing for a specific date when things are just going to get destroyed or obliterated, or when things are going to crumble and reform. And I understand where that's coming from. And I'm not saying that our mass collective isn't changing. I'm not saying that our economy isn't going to shift either. I'm not saying that it's important to protect yourself and be prepared for things. But what I am saying is that the majority of the emotion that is behind the aspect of the deadline, the emotion that's underlying that is fear. And the same thing goes back to the conspiracy theory. So if you have a spiritual teacher in your life that is telling you how to prepare for the end date, or telling you about the conspiracy theories that they're aware of and why they believe they're true, once again, there may be truth on both of these different levels, but underlying that, it's an emotion of fear that this teacher is actually giving to you. So I want you to just take a second to try to understand what I'm saying. When someone is sitting there, like, for example, if I'm sitting here and I'm telling you, okay, you know, sometime in late 2023, you need to have your investments right. You need to have food stored. You need to be ready for how things are going to crash, because I'm a psychic. I can sense that this is coming. I've been sensing this for a long time. It's happening. As I'm saying this, if you're going to be completely honest with yourself, as you're receiving the message that I'm giving you, although there may be truth in the message, underlying that, there is an emotional fear that I'm projecting outwards that is now going to you. So in the most authentic reality of the situation, all I'm actually doing is I'm giving you my fear. I'm not even helping you, even though I may think I'm helping you. I may think I'm helping you by telling you how to prepare for this end time, or I may think I'm helping you by trying to make you aware of these conspiracies, but I'm actually just giving you my fear based on something that I've had repressed in my body as well as my unconscious, because most likely someone in my past, most likely someone that I really looked up to, like my father or my mother, did the same thing with me. And now I'm sitting here in a role of being a teacher where I have influence over many people, and I'm giving you my same fear. I'm underlying all the conspiracy, the deadline. I'm giving you fear. And you're probably eating it up. You're probably like, oh my gosh, I've been sensing this too. I know it's going to happen as well. Like, how can I better prepare? What are you doing? And all we're doing now is we're feeding fear. And I'm here to make you aware that this is what's actually underneath the surface of these types of teachers. And I'm not here trying to throw shade on these teachers, because when they're doing this, they're not conscious that what they're programming their followers with, or their students, they're not conscious they're giving them their own fear. And this is how the nature of trauma and unhealed trauma functions. So the teacher themselves has been through trauma, and that trauma has not been processed, has not been healed. And one of the deep roots in this situation is fear. And now the teacher is older, in a position of influence, and is now projecting that same fear that they haven't healed on their followers in the disguise of, I'm trying to help you. I'm trying to prepare you. I'm trying to get you ready so that you have the right awareness for what's happening, when really underneath, it's just fear. It's just making the person more afraid. Now, here's the truth. No matter what happens on this planet, everything happens for a reason. Nothing happens for no reason, which means everything that will end up unfolding mass collectively in our society, as well as in your own personal life experience, it will be divinely orchestrated no matter what. Outside of any conspiracy, outside of any end date, it will happen the exact way that it's supposed to happen. And the truth is that if you're in a state where you're not feeding fear and you're not stuck in that fear cycle, but if you're in a state where you're just evolving, working on your soul, feeling your emotions to integrate your true self, and spending more time living in the present moment, you're going to bypass, or you're not going to be affected by all the chaos that is going to manifest in the world around you. You're not going to be affected the same way as the person who is feeding the fear or is stuck in the cycle of the fear. So let me give you an example. During the pandemic, 2020, at the time, obviously that was a very powerful mass collective event. I mean, it was really shifting everyone's consciousness, including mine. Everyone was affected by that to some degree. Now, the way that I was viewing it was as if this is happening for a reason. And everything happens for a reason, so I don't need to be afraid of this. I just need to embrace it for what it is, and I need to use it as an evolutionary tool. I can use this circumstance to better know me. And that's how I used that situation of the pandemic itself. Now, on the other hand, there was many people who were stuck in the cycle of fear, who were stuck in that loop. And what they were doing is they were feeding that fear by thinking, oh, this is so scary, so dangerous, or, oh, this is leading to the next mass collective control system. Oh, this is gonna, this is the next conspiracy, or, the government's gonna start clamping down on people even more. Meanwhile, there are people that are stuck in that cycle, going around in that loop, connecting with other people that are resonating in that same cycle with an underlying repressed emotion of fear that's fueling the whole thing. And then I'm over here in the workforce. At the time, I was working at Home Depot. So I was working at one of the only companies that was actually open during the pandemic. I was in the field. I was interacting with real life humans. I was connecting. I was self-reflecting. I was feeling. I was being in the present moment, and I was integrating. And because of this, because I was not coming from that space of fear, even if it's a positive space where it's like, oh, I'm trying to protect myself, or I'm trying to make other people aware of what's going to happen, remember, the underlying emotion that's driving that is a repressed fear. So even if it's couched in positivity, it's really still giving the other person and yourself an underlying emotion of fear. So because I was not in that, and I was just living my life at the time, what ended up happening for me is the chaos of the pandemic ended up being one of the best things that ever happened to me, because I had the opportunity to eventually file for unemployment. And it was from that moment when my business started to literally grow to the point where I no longer ever had to work a job. And this happened during one of the most chaotic times within our mass collective. And there are many other people that were able to access the gold mine within this chaos. And the people that really were able to do this were the people that were not stuck in the cycle of fear. These are not the people that are concerned with the deadline in society. These are not people that are preparing for the economy to fully crash in the sense of, I got to gather everything together and I got to be ready for this day so that when the markets close down and when everything shuts down, I'm going to be safe. Rather, it's going to be the people that know that they are always protected as long as they are integrating their true self, feeling their emotions, processing them, listening to their intuition, and ultimately living out their purpose. For the people that are living life in this way, there is no underlying repressed emotion of fear that is governing this person's life experience. So what this naturally means, based on cosmic law, is that this person is going to find real life, nurturing, healthy, abundant life opportunities, even in times where there is mass chaos. Because all chaos is potential. Chaos is potential and it's power. And this power and potential has the ability to completely break someone down, to show them their repressed emotions, or it can completely create a new reality in a more so, we could say, harmonious way even, for someone who's already doing that integrative work, because they don't need to go through the complete breakdown because they're already integrating the repressed emotions. They've already experienced the breakdown and they're balancing it out as they're going through life. So it's not stored in the unconscious and it's not building up and it's not building in intensity. They've been actively working on it. So it's less intense, so that when the chaos manifests, the chaos is just pure potential. And then it becomes a new creation. And that is basically what it was in my experience. I had to completely surrender to the pandemic. I had to completely surrender to a brand new environment that I was living in. I had to surrender to working at a job that I never thought I would work. And I just knew that I was there for a reason, to better know myself. And I took it day by day, step by step, was very patient with myself, loved myself in the process. And sure enough, it calibrated itself to the point where I could file for unemployment, which I did not expect I was going to do. And then my business literally took off to the point where I didn't ever have to work a job again, which once again, I didn't predict happening. That was not necessarily a part of my plan. This is how chaos naturally brought me to this position of health and wealth and freedom. That's the main thing. It brought me to a position of freedom because I engaged with the process and I didn't get stuck in that cycle of fear, and I for sure didn't feed the cycle within myself. So once again, I shared that example so that you can actually understand that there are a lot of spiritual teachers that on the surface, it looks really helpful and it looks really good because they're telling you what to prepare for. They're telling you what they believe is going to happen. They're telling you, you need to get ready on this. You need to stock up on these foods. You need to start investing in these types of investments. You need to start doing all of this. Or on the other end, you have the teachers that are like, hey, this is what's going on in our government. This is what's taking place. This is how they're manipulating you. This is how they're taking advantage of you. And I've even been in that position where I've given this type of content. I've been in this pattern. Okay, I've operated unconsciously from this trauma. Okay, so I've been this person too. I know what it's like. And I've given that to my followers. But as I am really doing the deeper work, and as I'm integrating, I'm becoming more matured. I'm becoming more experienced with what it is that I know and also what it is that I talk about. And I know my influence. So I'm well aware that there's a deeper underlying repressed emotion now. So I don't need to spread that same type of information that I once did, because I know at that time I was operating unconsciously, giving you the fear that I received in my life from my father. Because my father raised me believing conspiracy theories. He raised me always thinking there's a deadline. Raised me always thinking at this time the government's going to crash. At this time things are going to crash and you need to be prepared. And it's every single year it's the same story. Every single year it's the same story. Every conspiracy revolved around the same satanic ritual abuse directed towards me as I'm a civilian and I'm an innocent person. So, once again, are there truths to these things? Could the economy crash? It could. there can be very much truth in that. Yes, things can shift drastically. Are there satanic rituals that could be going on behind scenes with government officials? Absolutely, this can be very true. I actually resonate with a lot of these things. But am I going to spend my time and energy feeding that cycle or feeding that conspiracy or feeding this end date? Because underlying that mental cycle, there's a repressed emotion of fear. And when you're operating off of a repressed emotion, you're only going to create more situations and more circumstances that are going to regenerate that same fear that you have. So the person that is literally engaging with the conspiracies and feeding it without doing the real emotional integration, all they're doing is they're attracting more and more conspiracies in their life that is giving them more and more fear. And when they're in that state of fear, you're not in a state of abundance. You're not in a state of harmony. You're not in a state of recognizing you are the source as well. And you are exactly where you need to be. And you are divinely protected by the universe at all times. When you actually are aware of that and you know this, it doesn't matter what's happening in the world around you. You're divinely protected by the source of all, which means in the most destructive times, you are protected, no matter what, and it will calibrate itself to your advantage. As I gave the example that I gave with the pandemic, so many people lost everything. And for me, I gained a business out of the pandemic. And I sure as hell am not the only person that did. And I'm explaining why this is. It's because you have some people that feed fear because it's repressed, and that's their way of coping. It's their way of distracting from actually feeling by attaching mentally to the conspiracy or attaching mentally to the end date when everything's going to come crashing down. It's like a forward looking at all times, which is preventing the person from getting down to the present moment where the emotions are stored. The present moment is where these repressed emotions really reside. This is why people have to always project into the future or project into a conspiracy where they can attach to it, because it's preventing them from getting to the present where that fear really is. And at the end of the day, they're afraid to feel it. And it's not going to be fun. It's not going to be comfortable. It's going to be painful. But this is where it comes down to who's actually doing the work. And if you're actually doing the real emotional integrating work, you're going to get the real life results from that, which is harmony, love, attraction, and abundance. These are all things you have access to effortlessly when you're coming from a space of your true self, which knows you're always where you need to be when you need to be there, as well as always protected and nurtured by the feminine universe itself. So with me saying all of this, once again, I want you to try to be aware now of the spiritual teachers that you may have in this moment that are coming from a space where they're unconsciously giving you their fear that they most likely received from their parents. And the only difference is now they're older, they're a little bit more articulate, and they have a better way of couching it to make it look like it's in your best interest. When really underneath, all they're doing is giving you more of their fear, and you're actively pulling it in, you're feeding on it, and you're keeping yourself stuck in your own cycles that are based on that repressed emotion of fear itself. And that is never satisfying, it's never fun, and you can't go anywhere doing that. You really are stuck. You're going to be stagnant, spiritually speaking, if you're stuck in those cycles. So there are so many, as I said, spiritual teachers that are always stuck on teaching these conspiracies, always stuck on telling you how the world is out to get you and how there's evil in the world. And this is just making you more afraid, making you feel like things are happening that shouldn't be happening, when the truth is everything happens for a reason. Everything that happens is supposed to be happening. And then the other end, the end dates. The end date also connects back to religion. There's a religious program that also influences the consciousness of there being an end date in time, or an end date in our society, or an end date in our government, our economy. And as I said, I'm not saying that there's not going to be an end date. I'm not saying that, but I am trying to make you aware that there is a deep program that is behind that influences this type of mindset to project in the future rather than be in the present moment. And from the religious lens, this connects back into Christianity, where there's a certain date where Christ is returning. Okay, Christ is now coming back to earth to save everyone who was good, or save everyone who was, saved. Just save everyone who gave themselves to Jesus. And then everyone else is going to have to stay down here and suffer, basically. So this is a mass collective consciousness. This is a mass collective influence, a mass collective program where people really do hold a sense of, well, at some point in time, things are going to change. And when I say change, I mean things are going to drastically shift, like immediately, like instantly. And that would be coming from that same energy of, oh yeah, at some point in the future, Christ is going to return and then bring everyone who's good to heaven and everyone else stays. And people hold that awareness deep in the unconscious. See, this is another thing. It's deep in the unconscious. And it manifests through once again, it manifests through an unrepressed emotion, because when you hear that story that Jesus is coming at some point in time to save everyone who's good, that in itself is going to generate fear in people, because the nature of the source would never do anything like that. The source would never come down and just bring everyone who wasn't a sinner or everyone who turned to Christ during their life. Source wouldn't just bring these people to heaven and leave everyone else to suffer. It's not the nature of our universe. It's not the nature of the source. That's not authentic. So when people hear that story of Christ and they believe that Christ is going to come down at a certain time frame, there is an underlying fear that's behind that, where the person starts to think like, am I saved? Am I a good person? Am I being a good person? Am I doing the right things? And now the person might start trying to be more of a good person, trying to be a better person, but underlying what's driving that behavior is a fear. It's a repressed fear. So once again, we're connecting back to that same repressed emotion of fear, which is a mass collective thing where we have a lot of people in the spiritual community that are telling you about an end date in regards to our economy, in regards to our government, in regards to like prepare, the markets are going to shut down, get your food, get all these things that you can store, invest your money in all these different outlets that you don't even resonate with. Invest your money in these outlets that you don't resonate with, because when the end time comes, you're going to profit off of it. And this is, once again, all coming from a space of fear, and no one that is in this actual space is really going to profit from it, because the universe does not gift people who are stuck in their cycles of fear, and they will not be able to access that natural abundance which exists in our universe. So all of it that is coming from that repressed emotion, once again, of fear, if it's an investment that you're making, like an actual money investment, remember what I said, that investment is only inherently going to regenerate that same repressed emotion that you're dealing with. And in this case, it's fear. So guess what's going to happen? You're going to invest. Most likely, you're not going to get the returns you're looking for. That's going to make you afraid because you just lost money. All right? So with this being said, I think I shared exactly what I need to share, just because I came across a video that was somebody that I actually kind of learned from at one point in my journey. And I realized as I grew, I started kind of detaching a bit from that person's message. And I didn't really know why, though. I just wasn't resonating with it anymore. And recently, I just saw this person's content, and with the new version of myself that I am, I saw what was happening. And I saw why I no longer resonate with their content. And it was simply because the whole time, they were just feeding my own repressed emotion of fear. And I was just grabbing onto that because it's what I was used to. And it's what gave me a certain level of like energy. It gives a false sense of energy to hold on to something that you're so used to that really is an attachment. It's an attachment to a belief. And really, underneath of that, there's a deep, dark, repressed emotion of fear that at that time I was not willing to feel and I was not prepared to feel. So it was much easier for me to just consume content that was further fueling my attachment to this belief of, yeah, you're right, there are bad people out there, and yeah, the government is going to crash at this time, so I am going to prepare for it, and I'm going to get ready. And once again, meanwhile, all I'm doing in that state is feeding that version of myself that doesn't feel protected in the universe. Feeding that version of myself that feels like I'm not where I'm supposed to be when I'm supposed to be there, while also feeding the version of myself that doesn't understand everything happens for a reason. And as I was feeding that version of myself, I truly didn't know that there was a lot of value in destruction, or there was a lot of value in chaos. And there's a lot of value as you integrate repressed emotion, in this case, fear. So when I saw this person's content recently, I just realized all they're doing is projecting their own unconscious, unhealed trauma. And as I said, they're doing it unconsciously. So the teacher is not a bad person. It's not that they're trying to harm you. They're trying to help you. It's just that they don't understand, which means they are unconscious of what they're doing. And they don't even know it's about their own repressed emotion of oftentimes fear. And if they did become aware of that, I can guarantee you that the content that they would be making would start shifting drastically. Okay? So with that being said, this is going to wrap the video up. If you enjoyed it, make sure you hit the thumbs up button. That's definitely going to be important. So hit that thumbs up button. Also, go ahead and drop down in the comment section and let me know if this really resonated with you. Let me know if you're able to see this in other people's content or just in the spiritual community in general. Let me know if you've observed this in your parents. This can be very important to be aware of. Did your parents raise you in this way? Because if they did, then you most likely are going to have an affinity towards conspiracies or towards the end date. All right? So go ahead and let me know in the comments if you're picking up what I'm putting down. Now also go ahead and hit the notification bell so that you get notified whenever I post content, because you clearly don't want to be missing out on this information. This can be very transformative if you're actually integrating what I'm saying. Now also make sure you're subscribing to the YouTube channel, because by subscribing, you're energetically connecting. There's a deeper connection that can take place. So if you want to get more value from what I'm teaching, subscribing is going to be a great way to do that. Now, I also want to say this. You have my full permission to copy the link of this video or any of my other videos that you feel like were very valuable and taught you things that helped you in your evolutionary journey, and share it to other people that you may know that need to hear this information. If there's anyone that comes to mind that you know about that would gain value from this type of content, feel free to share that content with them. All right? It's my intention to build up my empire, to build up my business, and it's also a good thing that you're spreading the content to people that actually need to hear it. All right? Now, I want to say this. I have a private Facebook community that you can join where there's a bunch of like-minded individuals who are coming together, sharing their experience as they're growing, as they're evolving, sharing the experience in regards to repressed emotions that these people are dealing with, and also sharing their experience with occult phenomena that they have encountered throughout their journeys. Okay, so if you want to find yourself around a group of like-minded individuals that are very open and willing to share their experience publicly, then you can join the private Facebook group. At this point, I'm forgetting, I think there's around like 800 to 900 members, and it's active on a daily basis. And there's a lot of like people that are forming relationships in this community. Like a lot of people are forming friendships. And actually many people are meeting up in real life. Like it's a really powerful group. I make sure it's a good, healthy environment as well. It's not going to be your average community of a bunch of weird conversations. So if you want to take advantage of that, you go in the YouTube description, scroll down, you're eventually going to see there is a link that you can click, and then you can join into the private Facebook community, and either myself or one of the moderators will add you in. All right. Now, I'm going to take your awareness to the most important link within the entire YouTube description itself. This is the first link at the very top, and this is going to take you to the Patreon. On the Patreon, I have an entire grouping of videos and content that is not on my public YouTube channel. So at this point, it's literally like a secondary YouTube channel except the content that is on there is deeper, more advanced, and personal than what you're getting here publicly. So if you're someone who's really looking to take it to that next step, then I would highly recommend looking into the Patreon. Starting at tier number 2 of the Patreon, you're getting access to an entire magic training course, which would be very valuable if you're a beginner with your occult practices and you're looking for a structure to follow to start developing. Okay, it's not the end all be all, but it's a structure that can get you started. Then as you move into tier number 3, this is going to be the most popular tier of the Patreon itself, and that speaks for itself. This is what's called the Universe.B Vampire Service. So what this is this is an actual ritual that I perform on the 29th of every month that has one, and it's designed to change your entire energetic structure to be more in tune with the feminine aspect of our universe itself. So this is going to give you a much stronger ability to be receptive to your unconscious and your subconscious mind, which is going to allow you to feel your present moment emotions, which are the emotions that have been repressed in your body as well as your unconscious. And this will help you integrate more of your true self. Now, also what this energetic transformation does is it starts changing the awareness of the person to take chaos and dark energy from the environment around them to start then transmuting that into their own power and evolutionary potential instead. This is very powerful, very valuable. There are well over 1,000 people that have received this service from me, and many people have given me extremely deep feedback. Feedback in the sense that they realized once they received this service, massive changes started taking place in their life, changes for the better, changes that started allowing them to better know themselves. So if this is something you want to take advantage of, that would be tier number 3 of the Patreon. Then as you go into tier number 4, this is the new top tier of the Patreon, you're getting access to everything from the previous tiers, but you're also getting some additional bonus. So the bonus is you get psychic predictions on a monthly basis based on my tarot and my oracle deck that I've created to give you the energetic experience of what the month entails so that you can be prepared for it. Now, the other bonus that you get is you have an ability to add me on WhatsApp, and you can send me messages whenever you want, and I will reply when I have the time through voice message. So you can ask me any questions and I will give you answers through voice message. And you have me basically at all times. Whenever I'm free, I will be responding to those messages. Okay, so that's accessible to tier number 4 of the Patreon. Now, that's going to wrap it up. So if you want to join the Patreon, it's the first link in the YouTube description. As we move into the second link, this is where you can actually book a one-on-one call with me. So if you've been listening to my content and you want to understand a little bit more about some of these repressed emotions that you have stored in your unconscious, and you want to start learning how to break out of some of these cycles that you find yourself in, then I would definitely encourage you to maybe start with a one-on-one call with me to just get a taste of how that can go. Or if you just have any questions that you want to run by me and hear my perspective, then yes, I would encourage a one-on-one call. Now, if you're really taking your practice seriously and you're wanting to go through a deep level of transformation and self-development to integrate the true self, then at this point, you want to look into the mentorships. I have a 6-week mentorship and I have a 3-month mentorship. And this is one of my most favorite things to do in regards to my services as of right now. It's like I'm most passionate about this as of right now. So if this is something you're interested in, consider it. It's in the second link below. You can look into any of the mentorships or the one-on-one call. We'll leave that there. Now, as you also go to that same second link, there is an option to book a tarot card reading from me. This is a very unique tarot card reading that I promise you've never seen or have had before. And the reason why is because I have a unique awareness in general, but I also understand the Kabbalistic tree a lot more than the average tarot card reader. So what I can do is I can literally pinpoint where you are on that tree, and I can give you the energetic influence of what you're going through in the present moment, and then tell you what to expect moving into your near and your long-term future based on the card, but also connecting it back to the tree of life itself. I've done at this point well over 1,500 readings. I've been doing readings for other people for about 3 years. I receive tons of valuable feedback. If you want to take advantage of it, very simple, second link below, you can find the service there. All right. Now, we're going to move into the final link that I'm going to take your awareness to. It's the third link in the YouTube description. This is where you can become a YouTube member. You click that link and then you join at the top. As you're becoming a YouTube member, you're getting access to a multitude of different benefits. But most importantly, you get access to the Psychic Warfare emoji program that I've created myself. This is a sequence of emojis that are based on real occult principles, and you use them in a certain configuration. You link in the name of a target, hit enter, and it actually causes psychic effects to the target of your choice. It's literally the most simple form of utilizing psychic warfare through the internet platform, and it's a very healthy way to express aggression. Okay, so repressed anger, repressed hatred. The Psychic Warfare emoji program gives you a nice opportunity to express that in a healthy way where you're not actually physically necessarily harming anyone. Rather, you're taking it out through energetic psychic means instead, okay? So if this is something that you want to tap into, definitely do so. Third link below. There's over 2,000 posts where people have already used it. There's people right now in this moment taking advantage of it. If this is something you want to take advantage of for yourself, you can definitely do so. You click that third link, join, become a YouTube member, and then you'll have access. All right? With that being said, ladies and gentlemen, this is exactly where I'm going to wrap it up. All of you are very much appreciated by myself, and I hope you all have an amazing rest of the day or night, wherever you are, and I will see you in the next video. Peace.